This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis. It's the Morning Majlis. Talking the stories that are shaping headlines, plus those that make you go,
Hi everybody, good morning. Welcome back to the Morning Majlis, the show where we talk about the latest developments shaping the headlines. It's me, Ahmed Daoud, with the amazing Rania Sadi, and we have so much to get to as far as today's show is concerned. A pretty big interview lined up here. We're going to get a behind-the-scenes look at the future of the logistics industry. And when we talk about logistics, we're referring to the transportation of goods, materials for packaging shipment to distributors, for example. So we're going to talk to Janardan Dalmia, the founder and CEO of Trukkin, to talk to us about how technology is disrupting the logistics industry, the benefits of these technological innovations, and how they could make the transportation of material, their purchase and storage much more efficient. So stay tuned for that discussion. Plus, we have other stories, a lot of interesting research on the nature of COVID-19.
Oh, yeah. We're going to continue the discussion on COVID-19. We will talk about the latest study from the University of California in San Francisco. Well, it finds that wearing masks could provide a vaccine-like effect by helping the body generate antibodies, which means it will boost the immunity and slow infections. So we will discuss further the findings of this study and the facts to perhaps back it up.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known that as well. There's so much you learn every day about masks and such.
It's an ongoing research.
Indeed.
It's an ongoing research. We're going to find out more things in the future, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, and then later on we're going to discuss sports headlines, sports news. We're going to talk about the NBA playoffs as they continue as U.S. Open nears the end.
Yeah, pretty big game as well for Dominic Thiem. We're going to talk about that and so much more on the Morning Majlis. Text us throughout the program to join the conversation. The text lines are open, 4215.
This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis. It's the Morning Majlis.
Hi everybody, good morning. Welcome back to the Morning Majlis. And we're talking logistics this segment. Logistics, that's the overall process of managing how goods are acquired, stored, and transported to their final destination. And this is key for businesses because the more efficient your transportation process is, your logistics, the more profitable your business can be. And joining us to talk about making logistics efficient is Janardan Dalmia, founder and CEO of Trukkin. Good morning, Janardan. You're live on the air.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us today. Let's start by talking about what Trukkin is and how it improves logistics.
Good morning, Ahmed. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
We can hear you, yes.
There is a music sound which is coming on the background.
Oh, okay. We'll deal with that. Thank you. All right, so we're having a bit of a technical glitch in the system. Janardan, can you hear us clearly right now?
There's a lot of music, background music, which is pretty loud actually at my end.
Oh.
Okay, so the background music is loud at your end.
We're going
to be fixing that now, but it's pretty interesting here looking at what Trukkin has been doing. Trukkin is a technologistics company, and what they do is they specialize in making transportation a lot more efficient, particularly the transportation of goods via trucks as well. And here to talk to us all about that is Janardan Dalmia, the CEO of that organization. So I hope you can hear us clearly right now.
That's correct, Ahmed. Now it's
brilliant. All right,
Great.
Thank you, sir. So let's back up here, talk about the role of technology in the logistics industry and how you're making that more efficient.
Sure. If I were to describe Trukkin in a one sentence, Trukkin is an aggregator which is organizing, digitizing, and simplifying the trucking business. Okay. We enable convenient shipping, higher utilization of trucks with organized freight matching. So we are digitizing, we are modernizing a very archaic system of transportation in the Middle East and Pakistan.
And in terms of the problem you're addressing, because there's a purpose for what you're doing, can you talk to us about why we need that technological innovation in logistics?
Sure. If you look at the transportation landscape, specifically talking about road logistics, it comprises of, either they are fleet owners who own several hundreds of fleet trucks, and the industry has almost 80% of fragmented ownership, which means, there are people who own 1, 2, 3 trucks. So the people who have this fragmented ownership, they did not really have any institutionalized platform through which they could provide this service to the larger utilization of their services. This is where really the Trukkin comes in and provides a platform where we institutionalize and professionalize the service, hereby connecting the shippers with the right transporters. And during the whole supply chain of this process, there are various points where technology or digitization can improvise the business. Just to give an example, if you, I think this pretty much leads into what exactly do we do and how does it benefit on the various points, right? Mm-hmm. So if you think about it, from the point the production happens in a factory, or there is a dispatch, and at the time when it reaches to a certain distributor, there is loading, there is space utilization, there is route optimization, there's digitization and streamlining of documentation, payments, real-time telematics, end-to-end tracking. So there are a lot of pain points which are there in the industry, which has not gone through any kind of innovation over the last many decades. And this is an area which Trukkin wants to innovate and deliver upon.
So many industries and sectors have been hit hard by the coronavirus pandemic, obviously. And since you're running a techno logistics platform, I would like to know what challenges were posed by the COVID-19 pandemic to your industry.
Sure. So, frankly, the challenge was more around, people being able to operate, on the ground. People having, physical meetings with the clients, or, being physically able to travel. If you would notice, even if the passenger traffic went down to almost zero during this pandemic, logistics was still running. The cargo movement was still going on. And that was partially the reason why this pandemic did not escalate into, something crazier than what it is already. Logistics, in fact, played a very, very, very crucial part, I would say, during the pandemic, be it the movement of essential goods, be it facilitation of reverse logistics between different countries, making sure the shelves are stocked in the supermarket. So all this was kind of, which was the part of, logistics. So I think as a logistics, as a business, it has come out to be quite resilient. People have, it has reiterated its kind of importance, what it holds in the whole economy.
Let's go back to the technology aspect of this. Can you give us any successful case studies on the impact of technology on logistics?
Look, I think instead of going back, I would say a forward-looking, case study, which is very relevant today. Once, for example, the vaccinations are ready, you can imagine, the vaccinations need to be transported to almost 7.8 billion people in the world. This would require a massive, massive effort around not only, streamlining physical logistics, but how technology can play its immense role to making sure that, the vaccinations are delivered timely to the most remotest part of the places in the world. And this would require various points in the technology to kind of come together, all the way from, once the vaccinations are produced and are ready to be dispatched, having the right kind of temperature controlled vehicles, whether it's on the ground, on the air, then or on the sea, and once it's land, again to be transported across various communities. So this would be a massive effort which would be undertaken, from load optimization to road optimization to space optimization, automating the allocations and streamlining various processes around that. So I think, I'm pretty excited to see how this plays out.
And you, to add on to the immense potential here for technology and the way it's utilized, because that's almost infinite, just the stuff you talked about is incredibly fascinating and makes that process so much more efficient. But could you elaborate in particular about the Internet of Things and how that factors in the systems that you employ in those trucks that are part of the fleet?
Sure. So when we talk about Internet of Things, the way I look at it, it's kind of digitization and telematics. Telematics is becoming increasingly important because today the companies want to make data-driven decisions. Whether you are a fleet owner, whether you are a shipper, or even the government, they want to have data-driven solutions, and for that they require immense amount of critical data. What speed does the truck always go on? What speed? Where does the driver goes on the sleep? At what speed? When do they need to take a break? What is the temperature of the cargo when it's moving? If it's a pharmaceutical item or it's a supermarket, fridge item. So telematics plays a very, very important role around it. With the real-time tracking which it enables. So IoT and so it's really, the world is in terms of logistics, it's converging of offline and online. And together, when they come, then only this whole technology innovation can happen. So absolutely, IoT plays an extremely important part of the overall innovation which we would be seeing.
And moving forward as well, where do you see the future of these innovations in logistics and how it's set to change it permanently for the future?
Sure. I think, look, digital adaptation is, adoption is going to be mandatory for almost all the companies. The coronavirus over the last 5-6 months or 8 months has reiterated this. Almost all the companies have been pushed towards digitization. The resistance that people had or the teams had or the companies had, they have all realized the importance of moving towards a digital world. And case in fact, today we are chatting over online streaming services.
Yeah.
So it's connecting much faster. It's making us realize that it is not something which is good to have, it is must have. People who are not going, or the companies who are not go on that a route of digitization will be kind of left behind. Few years down the lane, I think as the data becomes much more accessible in the emerging market or growing economies, it becomes cheaper with the invent of 5Gs, which is going to come around next year or so. You would see digitalization being a very, very crucial part of our day-to-day work, be it any field, whether be it logistics or be it manufacturing, be it even from the government point of view, regulatory changes, adoption. It's going to be very key.
Well, that's a delight to hear, and thank you, Janardan, for joining us and talking about the role of technology in logistics. And hopefully this was a productive exchange for listeners learning more about an industry that they may not be as familiar with. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was Janardan Dalmia, the founder and CEO of Trukkin, talking about the role of technology, big data, and analytics in the logistics industry and improving and making it more efficient, the process of how goods are transported to their final destinations. Stay tuned to the Morning Majlis. We've got more discussions lined up on the program. A breakthrough study saying the wearing of masks could have a pretty big impact on your immunity against COVID-19. What does that mean? Stay tuned to the Morning Majlis to find out more.
This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis. It's the Morning Majlis.
Can face masks slow infections and boost immunity against the coronavirus? Well, a recent study from the University of California in San Francisco suggests just that. But before we go on with the study findings, let's go through the four main masks that we use and how they operate and their efficiency level in filtering droplets. Now, the first face mask that we have is the paper one. Now, it fits loosely and is easy to breathe through, but it does not contain any filter, sadly. The one that we use mainly is a surgical one. the one with the blue from the outside, the white from the inside. Now, that fits over the mouth and nose, and it helps prevent spread of large respiratory droplets when wearer coughs or sneezes. The third type is the Pitta one, used mostly for filtering pollen and dust. It's not the best for protection against COVID-19. That's why it's not really mentioned, and it's not an option. But the fourth one, a lot of healthcare users or healthcare professionals use, is the N95 respirator. It's called N95 because it filters at least 95% of small particles, and it fits tightly with minimal leak around the edges, and it offers the best protection as for now, or for as far as we know right now. But going back to the study that suggests that masks could boost immunity and slow infections against the coronavirus. Well, this new study from the University of California in San Francisco offers one more reason to mask up while we wait. Wearing a face mask may help boost your immunity. And this study, or the author of this study, many authors, they compared face masks to variolation, a process by which infected material from a patient is given to a healthy individual in order to create a mild infection and help the body build the resistance it requires. Now, their research, which was published in New England Journal of Medicine, concluded that using masks in the COVID-19 era could achieve similar results. Now, they said that since masks filter out some virus-containing droplets, masking might reduce the inoculum, which is the viral dose that an exposed person inhales. Now, the duo also said or added that this limited dose could provide a vaccine-like effect by helping the body generate the necessary antibodies to protect the individual from the virus, therefore boosts immunity.
Yeah, this is a pretty fascinating development, especially in light with the way masks work and the virus is transmitted. So primarily we wear masks in order not to spread COVID-19 to other people. That's the primary reason for it. And you might say, hey, I don't have COVID-19. Well, you don't know that because the virus spreads asymptomatically. So you could have the virus, which is why it's better to have a mask wearing culture where everybody's doing their part. Whether or not they think they have it or not is entirely irrelevant with evidence of asymptomatic spreading. Now, number two, yes, you could catch COVID-19 if you were wearing your mask. So if somebody was sneezing on you and you happen to be wearing your mask, of course, you're going to be inhaling virus particles. Again, this is in light of evidence that the coronavirus is airborne. So what they're saying here is, if you're wearing that mask and somebody around you sneezed or spoke and the droplets came out into the air and you picked up on those droplets, inhaled them, and got a COVID-19 infection, there's very strong possibility that A, your infection is going to be a lot milder than it would have been if your mask had been off. So you're going to get a less intense version of COVID-19. And number two, because you're exposed to the coronavirus, you could somehow develop an immunity to the virus as your body develops those antibodies needed, the immune response to fight the coronavirus. Now, it is worth noting that this is a hypothesis. It's a theory. And in order to test something like this and prove it once and for all, you'd have to expose people with and without the masks to the virus in clinical trials. And there are ethical concerns about that. So we're never going to see that kind of study. But those preliminary findings establish a hypothesis that, hey, you wear a face mask, that might boost your immunity to COVID-19. Another reason to wear them.
Yeah. Hey, masks are our best bet.
Exactly.
That's what it is. Yeah. And also, there are some doctors that are reinforcing this, and they're saying that they confirm the effectiveness. Masks, they confirm the effectiveness of it, and it's the masks are the best available way to combat the disease when combined with social distancing and frequent hand washing, of course. Having said that, it is critical for people to also observe good mask wearing practices in order for them to be effective. That's also another thing. A doctor at a hospital here in the UAE said, I have personally observed people frequently touching their face and nose while attempting to adjust their masks, or even placing their masks in their pockets and then wearing the same masks again. This is not good practice and an easy way to spread the infection. So this doctor recommends that any adjustments be done using the straps of the masks alone. He said only touch your face and mask when your hands are clear. That is, after you've washed or disinfected them immediately. Now, the doctors also urged residents to consider the toll the pandemic has taken to date. He said, or they said, we must behave with responsibility and think that individuals, our health system, economy, and the whole society has suffered a whole lot until now due to this pandemic. So it's definitely a social responsibility, and it's our responsibility as a whole to protect ourselves and protect the lives of others around us.
Yeah, and it cannot be stressed enough. The virus spreads asymptomatically, and you could never for sure say, I do not have COVID-19. You could always have it. You should operate under that assumption. Wear a mask at all times when you're outside interacting with the public. That is how you lower and curb the spread of COVID-19. So pretty interesting glance here at what researchers have been hypothesizing about the way the virus operates, about controlling the viral load, minimizing your risk of infection, and developing immunity as well. And if you have any questions about this, hit us up on the text lines 4215. We'd happily relay those findings to you throughout the program. Up next, we're going to be talking sports. A lot of big developments on the show as far as, or in the sporting arena. Stay tuned to Pulse 95.
Pulse 95. You're listening to Pulse 95. Pulse 95.
It's Pulse 95.